Nintendo just gave Xbox an amazing opportunity. What is up, y'all? I am Ray, and this is my channel, Xbox Ready, where we get on and we talk about Xbox stuff. The latest news, rumors, games, accessories, pretty much anything I want to talk about as long as it's about Xbox in some way. And in today's video, we'll talk about how Nintendo stole Xbox's thunder this week, but also kind of hooked them up. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Novium. A lot of times, I choose to buy things for no other reason other than the fact that I think it is cool and I think it would look good in my own little man cave. Stuff like Novium's Interstellar Edition Hover Pen. Novium creates unique, innovative, high-end products that aim to inspire curiosity and develop creativity. There's no denying that this hover pen is cool, but it also provides an unmatched writing experience. It feels smooth. If you're stumped, you're looking for a gift for someone, whether it's for Valentine's Day, their birthday, any other occasion, these make a really great, original, and timeless gift idea. As the name implies, this hover pen is inspired by space. The Interstellar Edition is a ballpoint pen that comes in 4 different colors, and you can refill it with new ink cartridges whenever you run out. It's also really fun to spin it around. If you want to step it up a notch, really feel classy, really feel cool. They have a fountain point pen called the Future Edition that you can interchange to a ballpoint pen as well. If you want to level up your workspace, your gaming desk, literally any other aspect of your life, you can go on over to Novium's website and use my code XBOXREADY for 20% off and free international shipping. It's only good for the next 48 hours though, so act quickly. Thanks again to Novium for sponsoring this video. It's only been a few short weeks that the community was abuzz talking about rumors of these new Xbox consoles that are supposed to come out in 2027. The first-party Xbox handheld, the successor to the Series X, may have Steam on it, may not. The prelude to all of that, though, is this mysterious partnered handheld that Xbox is doing in collaboration with Asus, known so far as Project Kennon. If you need a little reminder about what Project Kennon is, it pretty much sounds like an ROG Ally with Xbox branding. Maybe it's gonna have a guide button, maybe it's gonna have some cool translucent green throwback design, and apparently it's gonna include this new look Windows interface OS that specializes in gaming, or maybe not so much specializes, but is better suited to it on a handheld device. Project Kennon, not Keenan, Project Kennon, 2 N's, is once again back in the spotlight because Asus dropped a trailer for, well, we don't really know what it's for, but the trailer has like this little space robot dude throwing a bunch of things into this chamber. It's an ally, and the connection to Xbox here is that, it throws in the Asus branded Xbox controller. It mixes everything up, it combines them, and then it opens the door to reveal like this shadowy, mysterious handheld device with a face. I will admit that the connection to Xbox here, it's pretty loose, I'll admit that. But given everything that we've been hearing about Project Kennon, Asus, and Xbox, obviously they have a close relationship given the existence of the ROG Ally. It's a little bit of a reach, a little bit of a stretch, but still I wouldn't be surprised if this turns out to be this Asus Xbox handheld that we've been hearing about, Project Kennon. Asus being vague about this mysterious handheld that they teased might have been their smartest move in years, because while people have mostly moved on from talking about their trailer, people have pretty much moved on from the Doom previews that dropped earlier this week, now everyone is talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. But that's not necessarily a good thing, because while yes, they did introduce some cool features that the Switch 2 is going to have, like a dock that'll boost the output to 4K resolution and up to 120 FPS on certain titles, an interesting game sharing mechanic, some cool looking games, this weird chat mechanic where they beam super compressed crappy video to your screen. No one's talking about any of that. They're talking about the prices. $450 for the base model here in the United States, $80 for digital games like Mario Kart World, and $90 for the physical edition. These are borderline, if not outright nightmare prices. I remember when games were $50 back in the PS2 era. I specifically remember buying Final Fantasy X for $50. It took what seemed like forever saving up my little kid allowance trying to buy that game. Then they jumped up. They were $60 for a while. And then of course course, a couple of years ago, they became $70. Everyone was freaking out. Whoa, $70 for a game? That's crazy. I'm gonna wait for all the sales that I can. And now here we are again. Nintendo's like, yep, $80 for Mario Kart World, and we don't really care because you're gonna buy it. Through all of this back and forth about Nintendo's pricing, they've given Xbox the perfect opportunity. They've given Xbox the chance to position themselves as a platform that's all about value and affordability. Xbox can now say, yeah, you can pay $80 for whatever game on Nintendo, or you can use that $80 to get 4 months of Game Pass Ultimate, our most expensive tier, and instead of getting one game, you'll get access to hundreds. Specifically, they've made Game Pass, even the top option, Game Pass Ultimate, the most expensive, a more attractive option. Say this price increase comes on over to Xbox as well, $80 for new games. Suddenly, you're in this position of, oh man, like, even if I buy 2 full-priced $80 new games, that's already approaching what I would spend on Game Pass Ultimate for the entire year. And even if you pay $80 for new games on Xbox, you're getting a lot more than you would on other platforms. Not only do you get the digital copy, but if it's supported by Play Anywhere, you get the PC version. If you have Ultimate, you can stream it. There's a lot of ways that Xbox can make that $80 stretch if the price increase comes on over to their platform. Both Asus and Xbox, they can kind of sit back for a little bit, see how people react to these prices, and then they can kind of go from there in terms of final decisions regarding the final MSRP of their products. So they have this chance, they have this opportunity, but the reality is, it's probably not gonna happen that way. The days of tech companies undercutting each other with cheaper prices, those seem to be behind us. It's not like the PS4, Xbox One generation where they were able to come out and be like, yo, we know that Xbox are forcing you to buy not only the console but the Kinect for $500, but if you buy a PS4, you'll save $100. No, what's probably gonna happen is that we're going to experience the next big price jump in games. People are gonna complain about these prices for the next couple of weeks. They'll make a big stink about it. They'll get as much engagement out of it as they can. And then once the Switch 2 drops, it's gonna fly off the shelves. They're gonna sell 1 billion of these things. Mario Kart World is gonna go on to be like the best-selling Mario Kart ever. And then the people at Nintendo are gonna be like, even though we raised the prices, a bunch of people still bought our stuff. We're making more money than ever. There is no reason to change this ever. And then Sony's gonna look at that and be like, Nintendo raised their prices and people still bought their consoles and games. Let's go ahead and charge whatever we want for the PlayStation 6. People are already discussing the possibility that Grand Theft Auto 6 is gonna be $100 when it launches. Obviously that is rumor and theory, but I wouldn't put it past Take-Two because again, the reality is, even if GTA 6 was $100, people are still going to buy it and they will buy it in droves. Now, seeing all the stuff about the pricing for the Switch 2 in their games, it makes me worried about any new gaming hardware that's coming out. Project Kennon, Xbox's new consoles in 2027, the PlayStation 6. It kind of makes you a little bit more appreciative of, I don't know, the Xbox Series S. Think about all of the whining and complaining that people did over the past couple of years about the Series S. Oh, it's holding back Xbox, it's holding back gaming. In a world where everyone is trying to make things more expensive, up the prices on us, knowing that we will pay, Xbox came out and they were like, let's give them a budget-friendly console, a cheap console. In this age where people are gonna pay $450 for a new Switch, maybe $700 for a PlayStation 6 or whatever next-gen hardware comes out, I'm gonna look back fondly on my purchase of the Series S. I paid $250 for it, and maybe it wasn't perfect, but damn it, I enjoyed it. That's never going to happen again. A $300 console that can play modern games, that's done. That's over. So the question becomes, how does Xbox, whether it's with this new Project Kennon or whatever hardware that they're working on, how do they distinguish themselves from their competitors, which now include Nintendo, because again, they are going into the handheld gaming market. What I prefer is that they focus on flexibility, ease of use, and if they can, keep it affordable, keep it competitive price-wise. I don't know if that's something they can do just given the state of the world right now, but we also know that Microsoft, they're no strangers to losing money on gaming hardware sold. Is that something they're willing to do next generation in order to say, hey, at least we're cheaper than the Switch 2? And if you buy our console, you'll be able to play not only Xbox games, but games from these other storefronts as well, maybe even download emulators on it like you can on your Ally. There's also a pretty big elephant in the room that I have not mentioned when it comes to things that can potentially increase the price of gaming hardware or anything gaming related. Now, before I say anything else, usually I try to, when I make these videos, keep American and global politics out of any of my content because, well, we're talking about games, we're talking about Xbox. I always see my content, my videos as an opportunity to pull you into this world where the biggest issues are, oh, Xbox is making a PlayStation 5 version of whatever game. They're meant to be not only informative, entertaining, but a little bit of an escape from all of the craziness that's going on in the world. But there are things that the Trump administration here in the United States is doing that are obviously having a direct impact on the gaming industry. It's gotten to the point where it feels a little weird not to talk about it. I woke up to news today that Nintendo was canceling pre-orders here in the US because they were like, yeah, we gotta figure out this tariff situation that's going on. We don't really know for sure if Trump's tariffs against Japan was accounted for when they thought of the initial price for the Switch 2. And it's very clear that this is not just gonna affect Nintendo, it's gonna affect all of gaming. Thinking about it from the Xbox perspective, Microsoft, when it comes to the production of Gen 9 or next-gen consoles, it's gonna be a lot more complicated than it used to be. I was reading that semiconductors out of Taiwan should have an exception to the tariffs, but Microsoft also produces the majority of their Xbox in China, which Trump slapped with freaking big-ass tariffs, and then in retaliation, China was like, we're gonna slap you with tariffs right back. Nintendo tried to offset this by moving some of their production to Vietnam and Cambodia, which also got hit with some tariffs. Unfortunately, it looks like, at least here in the United States, this conversation that we're having of, oh, $450 Switch 2, $80 digital game, $90 physical games, there's a big possibility that that's just the beginning. Because either these companies are gonna have to eat the cost of these increased tariffs, or they're gonna have to pass it on to the consumer. Of course, all of this stuff is ongoing. We don't know how it's gonna end up in the end, but it's got a lot of people worried. It's got me worried. Let's circle back to Project Kennon. Let's circle back to Project Kennon. We've talked enough about Nintendo's handheld, the Switch 2. Let's circle back to the Xbox One, the one that's most imminently coming out. On one end, it's cool that it's kind of like an ally. Don't get me wrong, I love my ally. I'm not crazy about using Windows 11 as my primary means to navigate this gaming handheld, but once I'm in the game, they run well, they perform well. Usually, it has variable refresh rate, and my buddy Jimmy is teaching me how to download emulators on it, so that's pretty cool. I will admit my excitement for this thing, at first I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm excited to see it. Now I'm like, what is it really gonna be? Preliminary reports are saying that this new Xbox branded handheld that they're partnering up with Asus for, there's a good chance based on its projected price point that it would be weaker than the handheld I already have right now. Sure, it would be cool to have a dedicated Xbox guide button. Right now I have a bunch of like secondary shortcuts in order to bring up the game bar on my Ally. It's kind of annoying, but is it annoying enough for me to drop the cash on this new Project Kennon handheld? The thing that most excites me about Project Kennon is this new Windows 11 gaming interface. I love my Ally, but right now it's like, I don't know, it annoys me because it's almost a thing that I want it to be, but not really. This is a gaming handheld, yet sometimes basic gaming functions that you would use on a regular PC just don't work. The other day I had my Ally docked to my monitor because I wanted to play 33 Immortals. And first of all, I was running into a bunch of issues even launching the game in the first place. I kept getting error messages, oh, I can't connect to the servers, error banana? What is it? What does that even mean? It got to the point where I was getting really frustrated. So I said, screw it, let me just download it on my Xbox, play it on my TV. I have a direct Ethernet connection to my console, so it didn't take too long to download. And it worked immediately. So like, why does it work immediately on my Xbox, but not on this ROG Ally that's supposed to be like what the closest thing we have to an Xbox handheld right now? Bringing up the game bar is a pain in the ass on the Ally. It works half of the time, especially when you're using a controller to bring it up. I just hit the Xbox button in the middle, it pops up, but it's like a 50-50 chance that I'll even be able to navigate it, even when it's in compact mode. When I had it docked the other day, I brought the game bar up because I was like, oh crap, I don't have a keyboard and a mouse to navigate the Windows portion, but it's okay. I can bring up the game bar, launch 33 Immortals through there, except when I brought up the game bar, I wasn't able to navigate it. The bumpers didn't work, the D-pad didn't work. it was completely freaking useless. I had to take it off the dock and launch the game that way, and then hook it back up to my monitor. And when you don't have a controller and you're just using the gamepad on the freaking Ally, you gotta set up a special shortcut. You gotta make sure that your Ally is in the right keyboard configuration, gamepad versus desktop. And you would think that remapping the secondary function of the view button to the Xbox button would bring up the freaking game bar. Except it doesn't, so I had to remap the view button and the start button to the Windows button and G. I have to use 3 buttons in ascending order to bring up the freaking game bar, which should just happen instantly. I got beef with the game bar, man. It doesn't even work on my regular PC. Windows G does nothing, and I've done everything I can in the settings to enable shortcuts, it just doesn't work. So Windows 11, especially when it comes to handhelds, is due for a little bit of an overhaul, especially if Xbox, Microsoft, they're seriously considering a foray into the handheld gaming market, not just with Asus, but their own hardware. Make the damn thing more console-like. That being said, whatever software launches with this new partnered device, I hardly doubt that it's gonna be locked to that specific handheld, Project Kennon. Chances are I'm gonna take whatever interface, whatever OS that they use over there, the more Xbox-centric one, and download it on my Ally. I will admit though, if it does come out in translucent green, I'll probably buy it. I love that, and that's sick. And what is intriguing me is, leading up to the release of the Switch 2, we've been hearing all about, third-party publishers, they're gonna be scrambling to support their games on the Switch 2. They want their games on the Switch 2 because it's gonna be so popular, just like its predecessor. With the regular Switch, the first Switch, they kind of dragged their feet because it was an underpowered piece of hardware, but now, with the Switch 2, it's gonna be way different. I was kind of skeptical about that at first because, well, even the Switch 2, though it is a boost over the regular Switch, it's not like the most powerful console in the world. Far from it. And in this most recent Nintendo Direct that they just had before all the hands-on stuff started coming out, you'll be able to play Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition. You'll be able to play the new Borderlands 4. And I'm sitting there thinking, dang, it's definitely not even gonna be as powerful as a PS5 or a Series X. But if you can get a game like Cyberpunk running on it, the new Borderlands, you're already able to play Doom Eternal on the base Switch. They also somehow managed to get an exclusive From Software title on this, which is an absolutely crazy partnership. Now, don't get me wrong, From Software, they have made exclusive games before, sometimes even for Xbox, but that hasn't happened in years. It's just really surprising to see, after the massive success that was Elden Ring, a multi-platform title across PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. These rumors that we've been hearing, Master Chief Collection is going to be on Switch 2, a couple Gears games maybe, these things that Phil Spencer and Xbox leadership is saying, we want to support games on the Switch 2, they start to seem a lot more plausible. With a game like Borderlands 4, on the Switch 2. That probably speaks more to 2K's desire to sell as many copies of that game as possible versus any actual capabilities the Switch 2 might have. But that's exactly the position that Xbox is in too. They want to bring their games to as many screens as possible. They want to make as much money as possible in the wake of that freaking mega billion-dollar acquisition that was Activision Blizzard. The Master Chief Collection, a lot of these games that we saw at the beginning of Gen 9 that were also supported on Xbox One, games like FH5, Halo Infinite, a potential Gears Ultimate Collection or Gears 5, Hive Busters, all of those games, I think there's a very strong possibility that we're going to see them on the Switch 2, which is crazy. And that brings up a worrying scenario for Xbox because all of these third-party publishers may or may not be tripping over themselves to support their games on the Switch 2. Where does that leave Xbox? Because, well, Project Kennon, their first-party handheld, if that comes out in 2027, that's also going to be like a jack-of-all-trades third-party gaming machine because, well, we're heading into this future where there are no more Xbox exclusives. Whoever is working on the Xbox handheld, really, they gotta be really racking their brains, thinking of ways to set themselves apart from all of these other players that are suddenly interested in the handheld gaming market. Valve, Nintendo, reportedly Sony, they're working on a handheld too, apparently. Sure, for many people, if they make an Xbox handheld and they're able to support your entire digital library that you've accumulated accumulated thus far, that might be enough for people to buy it. But that's not what Xbox wants though. They want broad appeal. I imagine that they want people who have never bought an Xbox device to possibly buy this. So what features are we gonna see besides an Xbox guide button on the handheld or, a revamped version of Windows 11 in order to draw customers in? Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready. If you made it this far into the video, consider subscribing. Help me on my journey to 200,000 subs. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.